Okay. Going back to anatomy real quick, a lot of the stuff we're going to be doing are going to work more with a wood frame constructed door. If you start getting into metal doors, something like this, where the frame is metal, the door is metal, and then it's in a masonry wall, there's absolutely no give in that. So trying to force that with a set of irons, it's going to be pretty hard to do, if at all, so you might have to start utilizing cutoff saws, things like that. Because really the only play in those doors is that little bit, eighth of an inch, of give that hinge has. That's the only thing you have, because you're obviously not going to spread a brick wall apart, and you're not going to bend that metal. So keep that in mind if you're on the type of door you're trying to do.
Every time we come up to a door, we're going to take our Halligan and we're going to sound the door. We're going to hit high, we're going to hit low, and see if we have, on an inward swinging door, there's going to be deflection, where the door is going to give a little bit. We're seeing if it does give, we know there's no locks up top, or there should be not any locks up top. If it's solid up top or solid on the bottom, there may be more locks, and maybe something that we need to overcome while forcing the door. It also will hopefully give us a little bit of a gap between the door and the jamb itself for us to get either this in there or the hydrant. So we come up, we sound high, sound low, get in here. Maybe we need to make a little wiggle room using the adze just to get some a purchase point. The Hydro Ram is nice because it can be a one-person tool. You can hold it in place and hit it in and get those teeth in there yourself. The rabbit tool is usually a two-person tool. It can be one person holding the teeth, the other person operating the hydraulic pump. So we'll use the Hydro Ram. You put the teeth of the Hydro Ram against the door and up against the jamb. If you're doing it as one person, you have to swing yourself. We'll do this as a two-person. Same way we do a two-person on the Hydro Ram is the same way we do it with the Halligan. The person that's holding the forcing tool is the person that's calling the shots. He tells me when to hit, and I hit when he tells me. Hit, 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 hit. Give me one. All right. So when I was first starting to hit, it was very hollow sounding. As the tool forces it, hold it right there. As the tool forces in a little bit farther, you start getting a more solid hit, a little more of a ping. That's how you know when the tool itself is getting into more of the meat of the door. That's when you want to start forcing it. If you guys take a look real quick, the teeth are all the way up against the jamb, behind the rabbited part of the jamb, and against the door. So the hydraulic tool now, as he's operating it, is just forcing the door away from the jamb. The reason that we use it on a more substantial door and door frame is if that door was a stop jamb where it's just nailed in, more than likely the door is stronger than the jamb itself, so that jam's just going to rip off and you're not going to be able to force the door. So any of your apartment buildings where they have either a nice substantial door frame, whether it's metal or wood, or a metal door, commercial door, stuff like that, that's when you want to use this tool. Any questions on that? It's literally shit simple. It's that easy to get that thing to force open. But it's very limited. Like I said, it has to be a substantial door and a substantial jamb, otherwise it's not going to work.
So once in a while I get a door that's super tight, and we might play a little bit trying to get it to bite in there, but usually a door, the deadbolt or the lock is holding it in place, and you're going to have a little bit of play, just enough to get those teeth lined up when you start pounding on it to be able to drive it in. Start going over a residential inward swinging door. You guys know how to tell the difference between an inward and outward swinging door, right? Hinges on the outside, it's what? Outward swinging, right?
Same thing too with the jamb. You can see the jamb, it's going to be an inward swinging door.
Just remember, if you have an outward swinging door, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, but when you sound that door, if it's an outward swinging door, you're going to be hitting the jamb, so there's not going to be a ton of give there. So you can usually tell, it should be a little bit, and you should usually tell by the sound if it's something holding it up there, if it's got a lock or not. Where an inward swinging door, the jam's on the outside, so when I hit it, that door's going to have some deflection.
That would give a little bit of
top. But if I was hitting this way, there's nothing because it's up against that jam, it's not pounded into the jam. Okay. So, it's our what? Oh,
Or
I mean, this part of the backside. Beveled end? You guys have that turn? Alright, okay, well that's the beveled end of our forks. And who knows, we're forcing an inward swinging door, where do we want the bevel? Do we want it up against the door, away from the door? Do we want it like this? Or do we want it like this?
first way.
We want the bevel towards the door, right? What we're trying to do here, we're going to start here with that bevel. We want to start almost parallel to this door, bevel up against the door. We want to start driving this behind that, between the door and the jam. And as my hitman starts striking and I start pulling this way, we're going to keep driving it in. And the point is we want to get this to the back side of that door and wedged into that frame, into that jam pretty well, so it bites, so when we pop, the door goes. Does that make sense?
What we're trying to do first off, when we're go back up there, the first thing we're trying to do, if you guys can get in here close and take a look, the first thing we're trying to do is we're trying to get the tool behind the jam, right? In between the door and the jam. So we're coming in directly like that. Once we hit the framework of the door, that's when we start pulling out. Now you want to get it so that it's in between the door and the jam. So now your tool's coming in this way. So we try to get it behind the jam first and then in between the two.
If you got a little play in this door, you'll probably hit it once or twice and you'll pretty much be between the door and the jam and start working. But we said, in order to make a purchase point, we might need to utilize our adz end. You know, hop in there, pry back and forth, up and down a little bit, just to get some space in order to get this in, huh?
Give a little wiggle.
Yeah, get this, just enough room to get these forks in there. So we've done all that, we've checked, we don't have any locks top or low. We want to go just above. Typically, our knob and our lock system is going to be about middle of the door, maybe a touch low. We want to go just above or just below it. I know our lock technically is right here, so I'm going to go below that. And, alright,
like we were talking about earlier, the person who's holding the tool, the prying tool, is in charge, and I'm his striker. Okay. We always want to keep our hands away from the head and away from the head of the halligan.
You see where our bevel comes up? We want to get this pretty much flat against that door to start, so it's going in parallel with the door.
Alright. So I'm choked down a little bit because if I'm up here and I miss, I'll potentially hit my hand. Same thing with him. He's a couple inches back so that if I miss, I don't hit his hand.
Give me a hit. Hit. Force the door, I want to be on this side, I want to be pushing away from myself because we have the most power pushing away from ourselves, right? And it doesn't matter which way you hold this. If you're more comfortable setting it from this side, just remember that you're going to have to switch sides. So we're going to push back towards the door. The object is we're going to take this bevel, it's going to bite into that frame, and the door is going to roll off of it, pushing itself open, right? So now we're going to get a wide base, get some weight between us, and we have to put a little ass into it, and we're just going to force it.
Perfect. Nice solid base, nice and wide. If you need to, you come back on your back leg first and go forward. Don't go past this plane because if you start getting out and you start stumbling, there's potential you may fall into the door. You might be fire on the other side, a hole, whatever. Bad.
And like we said, we just got a small piece of pine holding this in to simulate a residential door, but it doesn't matter how we get the door open or when it opens, the sooner the better. Some people are getting disappointed because sometimes they would flow out before they actually have to force it open. So what? The door's open. It's just open sooner. Once in a while, if you have a weak door and you come up and you sound it looking for those locks, you're going to hit it pretty hard. The door might just force open on its own. That's better for you. It's less crap you got to do. And you're in quicker. So there's no saying what's going to fail first, whether it's the lock or the jam or the door. It all depends on the make of how it's put together. But we don't care, as long as it opens. Whatever's the weakest link is what's going to give first. So,
we'll break up into teams of two. Whoever's on the Halligan for the inward swinging door will then switch to the flathead axe for the outward swinging door. So break up into your teams. We'll care who's with who. Does anybody have any questions before we go ahead and start doing this? Anyone? Cool. Let's get into it.
What? Yeah. Good to see you, Rod. He was like, oh, sure. So I guess we'll go first.
Which one do you want to do?
You want to try doing striking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just remember, whoever's the strike person, if you're getting down, just be on one knee. Get in the habit of always being on one knee. You don't want to be on both knees. If this door flies open, you never know what's on the other side of it. So.
Yeah.
I do with my hand.
Okay, can you grab that real quick? Does everybody have iPro with them? Can you go get that? Do you have any? Borrow theirs.
Anybody have like the actual glasses that he could borrow when he gets up there?
Yeah.
Just in case there's splintering wood or you know, hit and miss against that metal, you know, potential. I don't know where it went. Got lost in the station.
No, it sounds kind of dumb, but I really, really despise paperwork, so I'm not doing any paperwork or anything.
So is the command hit or strike?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want, but just
Be
disseminate
consistent,
that before
right?
you go. Yeah.
Okay,
And
I'll
it's,
say-
it's nice and loud, right? Because fireground, there's a whole lot of stuff happening. So it's nice and loud so that your partner hears you, and it's not like a. Did you just say hit?
Yeah. That's why I took out my ear protection because I didn't know if I'd be able to hear her talking back. Okay, so sound the door first.
Yep. Sound the door.
Okay.
Don't actually hit it because it's not reinforced at the top and the bottom. So just
Okay.
simulate.
Well, wouldn't you try the doorknob first? The very first
Yeah,
one?
of course.
Okay, so it's always just locked.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm learning the
No,
stuff
you're
right.
good. No, you're good.
All right, sound the top, sound the bottom, and still closed. Okay.
Come in this way a little bit. Look at the way that
Oh, the tip of
tips
it.
are beveled
Okay.
here. See how it's cut off here?
Yeah.
You want that to run exactly like that.
Gotcha.
That's probably pretty much right where you want to be.
Okay.
So that cut part goes in behind the jam. You can probably come down just a touch.
In order to get this behind the door, you have to create space between the door and the jam first.
Gotcha,
Right?
and
So
then
you
it
want to
kinda-
come in parallel to get that gap, and then
Gotcha.
as you start biting into this, then you can start pulling this way as your strike man hits.
Okay.
And just remember, whoever's on that Halligan, as you start pulling back, I don't want you pulling back and then this, because once you release that, all that progress that you gained, you're losing.
Oh, yeah?
So you want to have pretty good pressure on that. As you pull, you need to hold it in place. Hit, pull, and not release it. The second it goes
Ready?
back, now you're releasing that gap, and that door is going to come back and jam, and you're going to start all over.
You're also keeping tension of the forks into the door.
Yeah, yeah, push it in a little bit.
That way, so when he's hitting it, it's just not bouncing all over the place, and you're just beating your head against it.
All right. You ready?
Ready?
All right. Hit. 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 Hit.
Keep coming so I can
Hit.
just stop.
Hit. Hit. Hit.
Victoria.
Keep going towards me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep pulling towards you.
Yeah, you want to get this almost in a 90 degree.
Okay. All right.
Another thing too is if it's harder for you to pull it towards you, you can get to this side and just push it, so you can get more force on
Gotcha.
it. It's up to you.
All right.
Whatever you
I'm
whatever you
gonna.
feel.
I feel it almost stopping, so I might switch in a second.
Just
Hit.
hold progress, and then you want to switch.
Hit. 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 All right, I'm gonna switch sides.
Pulling it.
I'm gonna switch and push.
Yeah, that by the end of it, that Halligan should be pretty much at a 90 degree to that door.
Okay. Hit. 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 Hit.
Okay, now come to this side. Keep tension on that.
Yeah.
No.
It's pretty much wedged in there really
Yeah.
good. Rock.
Pushing towards the door.
Remember, nice wide base.
Get a foot in front of you. That
Yeah,
way
yeah.
you're going to be pushing this way. You don't want to be leaning into it. So get a
Gotcha.
foot in front of you and push.
Okay.
Now just flip it, and just give it a whack.
That motion that he did right there has already overcome the locking mechanism of the door. If anything's going to hold it up at that point, it's going to be just that thin jam on the other side. That's the locking mechanism may just be kind of stuck in a little bit. Give it a little batting ram, knock that piece of wood out of there, and it should be good to go. That was good.
Who's next?
Who's up next?
Do we?
No, they switch for the outward swinging door.
That's after everybody goes.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do everybody first inward swinging, and then we'll go to outward swinging.
Well, someone's got to jump up and have fun.
Yeah, I probably.
Oh, yeah.
Are you shouting me too? Really?
Anybody gonna go? Are you guys going? Oh.
Oh, I need the yeah. I'm good. I put my sun shades on.
Do that.
Who's next? First thing, what do we do?